Hi, my name's Kieran and I am documenting the process of learning golf. I started playing golf last year and I'm currently sat at a 28 handicap. Our handicaps have been paused over the winter, so I've made no progression in that sense since October. However, I have been practicing a lot over the winter. I want to show you what my typical week of practice looks like. So obviously starting on Monday, I'll make myself some breakfast and coffee. I like to kick things off with gym session first. It is my heavy upper body day, so I tend to not practice too much full swing golf on that day. So I will hit the gym in the morning, and then for the evening, I'll typically do some yoga to loosen off and then do some putting practice at home. When the weather gets better, I will probably be going to the range to practice on the greens out there. So for my indoor putting practice, I have a 8-foot long mat, and I typically work on a few drills, working my way from the closest point of the mat all the way back. So moving into Tuesday, this is when I go out to the first range session. I try to get the first booking time for work, which gives me plenty of time to practice without having to stress about time. The driving range that I go to has a load of indoor bays with the TrackMan screens and stuff, but typically I like to go on the outside bays as I feel like I get more time. At this range you pay for time rather than a set number of balls. So being outside, I'm less likely to get kicked out of the bay because I'm taking forever going through my shots. Today at the range I've got 50 balls. I'm just going to be working on a bit of my iron swing, a bit of my driver swing, just really ingraining the stuff that I've been working on over the winter. And then that should take me about an hour or so to get through those 50 balls, and then I'll be going on to the short course and just working on some chipping and stuff for about half an hour before I've got to get back home for work. I'm feeling quite stiff today from the gym yesterday, so I'm going to do a bit of warm-up, fair few half swings with no ball as well, and just try and loosen up. So what I like to do once I'm warmed up is a ladder drill. So I'm working my way up my bag, one ball per club. If I hit it straight, which I'm working between two targets, so typically I work between the right edge of the rugby post and the tree on the left hand side here. If I can get the ball in there, regardless of distance, unless it's a terrible shot, I complete that club, and I just work my way through. Any club that I don't hit particularly well on the first round, I'll repeat, and I'll just keep cycling through until I hit all the clubs nicely. From there, I will hit a few with my driver. This is the thing that I'm really trying to work on at the moment, so just going through a few different cues and stuff to make sure I'm feeling good and comfortable with that, and then I'll finish off with some target practice. So let's get into it. Okay, so stuff at the range is done. I'm out here just doing some chipping practice now. We're almost, I think we're probably a month out from hitting without mats. So I think over the winter I've been heavily reliant on the mats. So I just want to spend a bit of time chipping on, getting used to hitting off grass again. I've got 10 balls here, and I'm really just focusing on Dangree's release 1, which is basically a chip and run, and I'm aiming for the back flag. So this green actually is sloped left to right, so I'm going to be aiming up the left side of the green and hoping it rolls on. Really focusing on contact here. The result I'm not too bothered about, but just nice contact, trying to get them on the green just to feel comfortable again. So we'll do a few rounds of this and then move on to something else. Yeah, so the grounds are still a little bit wet, which means that highly likely to chunk a few of these, but see how they go. Yeah, that's good. Soft landing. Well, it works. It's ugly, but it works. So moving into Wednesday, typical routine, coffee, breakfast, and then out to the range. I tend to try and prioritize my short game practice. It's the one I enjoy the most, but also the one where I think I can get the most progress on with lowering my handicap this year. Today I'm working on shots from about 50 yards out to 100 yards. As I mentioned earlier, I'm transitioning away from hitting off a mat. During the winter, all of the rounds we had to hit off a mat. So I'm just trying to get used to that before it becomes mandatory for playing as it lies on the grass. Obviously at the moment, contact isn't so good because I've been used to hitting off just like that slight ½ inch higher. So here, starting about 50 yards out, I give myself 10 balls, and if I can get 60% of those balls onto the green, I'll then move back a little bit further. And today I went from 50 to 70 and then to 100 yards. On a Wednesday, I also hit the gym with a focus on legs. Moving into Thursday, doing some putting practice at home again. The weather wasn't so great, so I couldn't get it out to the course to practice there. So again, doing a similar drill as earlier in the week. My real focus here is takeaway and really trying to get that right line on the putts. Hitting off these mats, the ball rolls a lot faster than how the ball is running on the green right now. So I'm less worried about pace of shot, as that is just so varied right now. Then I wrap up my Thursday with a run. Typically do a 10K. For me, that is enough to keep the cogs working. Then on to Friday, back at the range again. During the off season, I like to get to the range at least twice a week. That will reduce as we get into the summer months and I can play a little bit more. But here, I'm working on my ball striking. I put my driver head cover out there, so I am forcing myself to hit from in to out to encourage the draw. And like always, when I'm at the range, I try and switch clubs between every shot just to give myself a little bit of variation and simulate what I would be doing on the course. So once I've finished up with my irons, I move on to the driver. Driver is something that I'm working on the most at the moment. And one thing I've noticed actually is my first few drives, either on the course or at the range, are always really good. And then it progressively gets worse throughout the session. I have no idea why, but I'm curious to find out what the reason is there. Then finally, I move on to a golf course like simulation. So I start with my driver. Depending on where I hit my driver and the direction, I'll then move down to either my 9, my 8 or my 7 iron, hit the shot there. And then I'll finish off with either my pitching wedge or my 50-degree wedge to close in. And I find that really helps with the variation, understanding where the shot goes, and gives me something to aim for as well. And then finally, I tend to take one rest day on a weekend and then play a round of golf on the other day. So here I am going through 9 holes at my local golf club. We're almost getting to a point where I can submit handicap. From next month onwards, I will be able to start submitting my scores and reducing my handicap. So really excited about that. I understand that this is quite intense, the amount of volume of golf I'm playing. However, I've got that flexibility in my life at the moment to be able to do that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.